Hey guys. Well, we got about 8 people in here. I saw 8, now I see 7. uh, excuse me for how I look. Uh, my health wise, I know you guys probably get tired of hearing this, but health wise, not doing too well. Fevers on and off. Um, Today. Not as high as it was that one night when I was doing one of these with 101 temp, but it was about 100.4 or something like that. Hey, 71. But it looks like we've got, well, I'm guessing John is still in here, and I'm going to comment on his stuff here that he. Thanks, X Ray. You say, shit, Daner, get better. Yeah, you know, according to my doctor, this is going to be a way of life for me now. Some people believe it, some people don't. At this point, I really don't care because if you believe me, great. If you don't believe me, well, that's your problem because um, I've went to the doctor multiple times. Um, I've been diagnosed with long COVID, and from all my reading that I've done on it, this it could last a lifetime. I mean, nobody really knows about this stuff. The CDC even doesn't know about everything. COVID is still new. Um, so I've just reached a point where if people believe me, great. If they don't believe me and think I'm making this up for sympathy or whatever, that's their problem. I can't make somebody believe me. It's just a shame that the powers that be at my current employer, but probably soon to be former employer, do not believe me and are not willing to work with me in any way, shape, or form. But I'm not gonna go into that because then I'll have to. If I go into it too much at this point, I'm gonna wind up having to private another video, and I don't really want to private all my videos to keep stuff from like being used against me till all this stuff is over and done with. But uh, let's see. Uh, Blair, you said what happened to Uncle Bill? Or he's changed to Uncle Rad, but I guess he's still in here. We got 10 people in here now. It looks like. Um, hey, TJ. John, you say, yeah, I'm here and washing my dog's feet. Damn skin infection on dogs. Oh, bless her heart. 71, you say, it don't matter what people say, you know how you feel. Yeah, I mean, 71, that is true. I mean, I guess, and I said this before, I'll say it again. The person not really believing all this stuff and not even believing the doctor, which is ridiculous. Um, because I mean, what reason would a doctor have to not tell the truth about somebody's medical condition? How is that going to help them any? It doesn't benefit them if they're not upfront about somebody's medical condition or conditions. Um, but despite all that, Steve, uh, I think he thinks I guess, laying it on a little thick with this. But guys, I've been sick before, but never like this. I mean, I've never experienced anything like this. Even when I was sick in the hospital because of stomach virus several years ago, um, and like I said, I ended up having to be in the hospital. My one and only time ever in my life that I had to be in the hospital, and my one and only time with diabetes that I had to be in the hospital. So, Um, and even this is because this just keeps it keeps on going. It's like the Energizer Bunny. It just keeps going and going and going. Um, and I not being able to work because that was taken away from me is just killing me. I can't hardly stand it. Um, so just taking that ability to be able to work with people and help with people and try to help solve their problems, which is something that I love to do, that's been taken away from me um, for 6 weeks. So um, it's pretty bad, and I feel I'm getting more stuff that I can do around the house till I get just so exhausted I can't do anything anymore. I'm getting a few more things done around the house. I mean, that's probably the only upside to this whole thing. But I really want to work. I'm not a lazy person at all. And that, you know, the whole trying to be able to work from home was not, I would think if somebody was lazy, they wouldn't want to work at all. And I wanted to work. I just wanted to work in a safe capacity, but evidently that's not being allowed. But Steve doesn't really, he doesn't believe me 100%, and he doesn't believe my doctor 100%. And I guess he didn't believe the little clinic when I was going to see them either. So, what are you going to do there? So, um, uh, John, you say, I love dogs, but they're a money hole. LOL. Yeah, they can, they can be. I understand that. I love my dogs too. TJ, you say, I visit dogs I don't own. LOL. Uh, Uncle Rad says, Uncle Rad is your hookup. Holla if you hear me. We all hear you, Uncle Rad. Hey, Texas. Oh, let's see here. Blair, you want to know what's my favorite Stephen King movie? Man, that's hard, Blair, because I'm such a big Stephen King fan that and Brandon's whining in the background. If he starts barking, I may have to actually go let him back here. The reason why I've got him gated off is because I'm afraid Reggie will come in here, and I've got a pan that I still need to wash is in the sink, and that indicates that I'm going to have to go get him and let him in here. He's going to wake Steve up. Come back here with me and behave. I just hope he doesn't bark when he gets back here because that's very distracting. Um, but that is a really hard question, Blair, because I like so many of them, and a lot of times my favorites will change from time to time. So goodness, it's really really hard. I mean, I'm partial to several of them, like Misery. And this is for different reasons. I think Misery because it I always saw myself as a frustrated writer. I never was able to get published like Stephen King and some of these other authors. But I do still like to write. I just don't have as much time. Perhaps now I'll have a little more time on my hands. But I like to write short stories and poetry, and I wrote that stuff for years. So um seeing that side of the writer and like the writer's fears of like, what if there was this fanatical fan that like took me hostage basically. That just the whole, and the story is so well written, And I think Rob Reiner just really directed that. He adapted and directed that so well, and really brought it to life on the screen. So that's one of my favorites. Carrie is one of my favorites. And Carrie for a different reason. I don't know about other people, but I'm sure some of you guys in here can understand that. Not really, I guess they'd call it bullying now, but we didn't really call it bullying back when I was a kid. So much we just called it being picked on and stuff. So after years of being picked on, when I was growing up, I had an overbite and I was picked on because of that. And I was picked on because I was shy and quiet and um, just, different things. Kids can be cruel, and they can pick on you for just any little old thing. So, when I finally did see Carrie, and I think I saw the movie Carrie before I actually read the book. And and I love the book too. But the movie really encapsulated that whole thing about, ultimately, Carrie White is somebody that is just relentlessly picked on and ridiculed. But, although we wouldn't want to kill anybody per se, it's just like you wonder, what if I had the power? What if I had that power that Carrie has, the telekinetic powers? And I could kind of defend myself against these people. Wouldn't that be cool? Um, so I think there was a little bit of that. I think a character such as Carrie White and the way that that character was played so wonderfully by Sissy Spacek, even though Sissy Spacek was like 27, 28 years old when she played the Carrie White character. She still played that. I mean, she was right on target with that. And from what I've heard, Sissy Spacek really had to prove herself because I don't think Brian De Palma and several other people wanted to have her play Carrie. They didn't think that she could do it, and she did it. I mean, she proved to them that she could play this put upon high school girl with telekinetic powers. Um, so I mean, that's a couple, Blair, like for the scare factor, something like Pet Cemetery. And I'll tell you, the I won't go on and on about these Stephen King ones. I'll tell you a handful of them. Um, but like with Pet Cemetery, the stuff about the dead coming back and stuff like that is not what scared me in that movie. I'll tell you what scared me and what scared a lot of people. If you've seen that Unearthed and Untold, The Path to Pet Cemetery, you will realize, and you probably already realized if you've seen Pet Cemetery, the Zelda character is what scared the shit out of me when I watched that because I can handle, the dead coming back, but there was just something inherently creepy about Zelda. And when I found out later that Zelda was played by a man or a boy, a guy, um, eh, that was like, wow, they really went that extra step to add that extra level of creepiness to that character. And, I'd always heard of spinal meningitis and stuff like that, but, um, I mean, I'm guessing it could affect your brain, and they mention in the movie, Lewis mentions to Rachel, um, "Your sister was probably clinically insane by then." So, I'm guessing spinal meningitis could affect the brain in such a way that it could cause that. because I didn't know this about tuberculosis until I went to Waverly Hills here in Louisville. And they actually said that there were some patients with tuberculosis that it affected their brain and they were mentally ill and had to be on a whole different wing in this hospital because they were dangerous. They had become violent because the tuberculosis had affected their brain. So I guess it's entirely possible that spinal meningitis could do that as well, especially back in the old days when they didn't have the treatments that they have now. Um, so that's three, Blair. If you ask me on any given day, I might give you another set of three movies. But that's a good question. It's just a hard one for me to like just pin down just one movie. 71, you say it's like the Lyme disease was when it hit me. It was nasty and overwhelming. Yeah, that is definitely how it feels. It is nasty. It takes no prisoners, and it is overwhelming. I never experienced anything like this in my entire life. TJ, you said the raddest of the uncles. That's right. Red, do you want to know if I could only pick one sandwich every day for lunch? What would it be? Probably grilled cheese. I love grilled cheese sandwiches. TJ, you say write scripts, Dana. It's easier. LOL. Yeah, I've never tried to write a script, TJ. Perhaps I should. Um, I mean, maybe one day I will do that before I die. 71, you say, oh, yeah, when my mom was not medicated for Alzheimer's, she used to act like Zelda. Wow. See, my granny had dementia, which I guess is, I don't know, like, if there's really any difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, um, medically speaking. I don't know enough about any of these diseases, unfortunately. Um, but she never, I mean, she had dementia and she would forget things. And she thought when she was in the nursing home and she was getting steadily worse, especially if she was coming out of a sleep state. I came to visit her one day. Me and Steve came to visit her one day, and she thought I was mom. Um, and she called me Lori. She said, Lori? I'm like, no, Granny, it's Dana. And she thought about it for a second. Said, oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. And she didn't know who Steve was one day, and Steve and I had been together for a while at that point. So it was just, when that started happening, that was very sad. But she never acted like she was mentally ill. She would just forget who people were. She would think it was in the past. She would ask mom about granddaddy, and my granddaddy was an alcoholic in his younger days. And I guess technically, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. You either quit drinking or you don't. So um, she would say things to mom like, we need to go get your daddy at the bar, or I'm going to have to go get your daddy at the bar, and just all different kinds of things. Blair, you say Zelda was rough on all of us growing up. I think so. Because what did it come out? 80, was it 89 when that came out? So I was maybe about 13. They go into the other. Okay. Um, so, um, moving on from all that, I mean, y'all can feel free to talk about that. Although I tend to kind of get a little bit depressed when thinking about my granny because she has passed now. She lived to be in her 90s, but the last few years of her life she had to spend in the nursing home, so that was sad. And we watched her steadily go downhill, which was very, very sad. Um, so anyway, I'm gonna get to the my five movies here shortly, but I did want to remind everybody that I mean, I'm gonna try to do some things this week. Like the Cheese Extreme Wednesday, which I didn't do last Wednesday because the shit pretty much hit the fan last Wednesday. So I didn't do that one. I didn't do the Matei. I don't think I did the Matei versus Fragasso. Um, and I think when I do it, that's going to be the final Matei versus Fragasso because um, there's not enough movies that they did kind of separately that I can compare one against the other. Um, it, it's kind of like with Argento and Fulci. I ran out of Fulci movies because Argento's still alive and Fulci unfortunately died in 96. So that left a hole in there where Argento had more movies than Fulci was able to produce. So I'm kind of running into the same thing with Matei versus Fragasso. Um, so I think we only had we might have two, maybe three shows. And that might be it for that series. And then it'll be time to move on to another one. But I did want to bring up for anybody that was not in the watch along last night. Um, Me and TJ had a great time doing Halloween 2. I did not realize I was up against a pay per view for Extreme Rules, I think. Um, and, and like I was telling TJ last night, I was like, I don't dislike wrestling, but I guess I'm not as big a fan as some people, so I don't keep track of when these certain things are coming on or when these pay-per-views are coming on, et cetera, et cetera. So we didn't have a whole lot for the watch along for Halloween 2. And it was me and TJ in Texas that actually did the watch along. We were all three live on there. And I thank TJ in Texas again for being on there with me. Um, so I don't know if it was the pay-per-view that was going on that pulled people away, if there was something else going on, if they just didn't freaking want to watch Halloween 2. I'm not sure. But there were a lot of people that engaged with the post. So I thought, oh, well, there's going to be a lot of people in here. I was hoping. Um, but I'm not angry over it. I mean, it is what it is. Um, but I did want to remind everybody that I do have a movie picked for this next Saturday, which is Return of the Living Dead. And TJ said that he wouldn't be able to attend that one because he's doing something that I consider more important than a watch along. He's going to be screening a short film that he did, and he's won awards for it. And I think that's awesome. And he's going to be screening it at a convention, I believe. Um, so that I think that's super exciting, and I think that's I told him I could forgive him for missing a watch along with me for that because that's a big deal. Um, No, I didn't forget you were there. I just remember TJ was there earlier, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, I had Texas on there with me too." X-ray, you say I'd rather watch moldy ass horror movies from the '80s over wrestling. Well, I would too if I had, if somebody said you can only watch one type of thing for the rest of your life. It's either wrestling or Modi ass horror movies from the '80s. I would have to say Modi ass horror movies from the '80s. So I get that, X-ray. I definitely get that. Blair, you say Bray Wyatt. Yes, I did hear that Bray Wyatt did make a return on Extreme Rules. Um, so Texas, you say I won't be dogging house sitting after all, so I will or should be there. Okay, cool. And you have an open invitation to be on there live. You can let me know at any point in time. I've already got the watch along scheduled. So I could always send you the link at any point in time for that. Um, Curly Jaws told me he would. Actually, he told me he'd be in the chat. I haven't seen him in the chat yet, but he did say that he would be on here tonight with me if I want him to. But I told him, although I love people to be on here with me, and I do still extend that open invitation, but I did tell him that I wasn't planning on spending too much time with these movies because of the way I've been feeling today and how exhausted. And I'm basically doing this as a distraction. So my mind doesn't wander on those other things that I'm not going to keep talking about, but you guys are already privy to pretty much anyway. Um, but So I told him that the way I've been feeling and all that stuff, I was probably going to go through these pretty quickly. But I did tell him that he was more than welcome to be on the watch along on Saturday. So he said he might do that. And so I'm thinking too, since we're getting into the Halloween season, I did manage to get my Halloween stuff out today, but I was laid out after I finished it. It was like Steve even noticed I was, just really exhausted after that. But I was like, I don't want to give up everything. Halloween is my favorite holiday. I mean, I know that probably sounds blasphemous to some people. They probably thinking you should say Christmas, Dana. But Halloween is just so much fun for me. And I don't want to give up the decorating thing and the handing out treats to the trick or treaters and stuff. I just don't want to do that. I'm not ready to do that yet. Um, but so I wanted to make sure that my Halloween stuff out in the yard got put out today because it was like, if I wait any longer, it's not going to be up that long. And I like to have my stuff out there so the people that drive past the house and stuff like that can see it. I always try to change it up a little bit every year. So, uh, excuse me. So, back to what I was talking about. The watch along. See, that's that brain fog setting in. I totally lost my train of thought there. What I was getting to is because we're getting into the meat of the Halloween season, I thought that the following Saturday after that, um, we would do, or I would do Trick or Treat, not Trick or Treat, but Trick or Treat from 1986, the Sammy Kerr uh, demon rock music or whatever you want to call it, horror film with Skippy from Family Ties. So hopefully those two movies sound fantastic for everybody that usually comes to my watch alongs and comes to these other live streams that I have. Um, let's see. But X-Ray, you say, who the hell is Bray Wyatt? What happened to classic wrestling names like Mantar and Bastion Booger? I have no, I have no idea, X-Ray. I never was really big on the Bray Wyatt thing. Um, I don't know. It just wasn't my cup of tea, but it might be some people's cup of tea. TJ says the Monster Expo in Taunton, Massachusetts, Sunday, October 16th. LOL. Is that the convention you're gonna be at, TJ, and screening your short film? X-Ray, you say, when is Shit Tooth, the gay demon from hell, ever making a StreamYard appearance? I don't know. You might have to ask CK and Uncle Bill, or CK and Uncle Rad, maybe, about that, X-Ray. But hold on, I'm gonna grab something and bring it back here, because that's the other thing that's been going kind of wonky, and it's probably tied in with my health. Is my blood sugar's been going down a lot more, so I'm gonna grab something really quickly. But I did want to, before I get to the movies, I did want to comment on the early comments that John had had put in here before I got on the stream. Um, and I hope John's in here to, like, if he cares what I'm going to say about that. But he did bring up that Pumpkinhead was one of his fall fright picks, which I think that's a good choice. I'm not a huge fan of Pumpkinhead, but I could see where, like John said, that sets the October mood. Um, and the other thing he mentioned was the new Hellraiser is good. It's not woke, really, just a good Hellraiser movie, could tie into the original. Now, a lot of times I agree with John's assessment of movies, but this time I'm going to have to disagree with him. I did not like that new Hellraiser movie. I did not like it at all. I did not like the design of well, I said, is Pinhead gonna be in this? And Steve was like, it's not Pinhead, Dana. It's the something about the priestess or something. I said, whatever. I said, we've always called Doug Bradley's character Pinhead for years and years. And I said, is Doug Bradley gonna be in here? And he said, no, it's gonna be a woman. Um, who I think he said the actor or actress or whatever that plays this part is trans, I think, because they wanted it to. What did Steve say? He said he believed that in the story, Clive Barker's original story, that um, the character was androgynous, or however you pronounce that. Um, so he seemed to think they were trying to make it more like the story. And I don't know. I didn't like that design. I didn't like how the Cenobites looked. It just seemed a little too artsy fartsy for me. The way they were designed. I didn't like the characters in this movie. And I don't want anybody to take offense because, as I've said before, I'll say it again. I have friends that are gay. Um, and that lifestyle does not bother me at all. And if characters that are homosexual or lesbian are placed in a movie uh for the right reasons and not just stuck in there just because everybody thinks they got to be PC. And I hope I don't upset anybody at all by saying this, but I felt like with this new Hellraiser movie and a lot of other newer movies and shows that they feel like they're um I don't know, how do I put it? It's almost like they feel like they have to do it to be accepted because they're going to piss somebody off if they don't put this type of person, that type of person. Um, if they don't, make sure that they have black people in things or redo something completely where the white characters are replaced with black characters. If they don't have homosexual and or lesbian characters, if they don't have trans characters, if they don't have, and I'm like, geez Louise, people, just make a movie. And if you want to, if and I guess, well, how do I just don't want to, I don't want to offend anybody, but I just feel like filmmakers, a lot of filmmakers these days are laying it on a little thick. Um, I'm not saying that you should never have black characters. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have gay characters. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have lesbian characters. I'm just saying make them well placed in the movie. Don't just stick them in there just to say, hey, I stuck black people in here. I stuck homosexual characters in here. I stuck lesbian characters. Stuck trans. I stuck gender fluid people. Whatever. Because I just think that is ruining the movies and the television shows and all that's coming out now. Because it doesn't seem like people are doing their own thing anymore. It looks like they're letting whatever the big thing is dictate how they make their movies. Um, John, you say meant to check out Halloween 2, but I was in Mississippi, I guess. And next few weekends are anniversary and Scarefest. But weekdays I'll try to catch these. Oh, damn. I forgot about Scarefest, John. Steve's probably hoping I forget about it. Um, so which weekend is Scarefest? Because I'd totally forgotten. Because I think Michael Berryman's going to be there again. And I wanted to get a chance to meet him this time. But if me and Steve do go to Scarefest, it'll be a day trip and we'll be back before it gets late. So, um, just like we did with Horror Hound, we looked around a little bit. I met Ian McCullough, and Steve was like, "You ready to go?" Yeah. So, well, we bought a few things too, but your anniversary is a big deal too, John. I would not want you to come to watch along when it's your anniversary. We don't want that to happen. Johnny say odd enough last October and Halloween, not shit going on even locally. X-Ray, you say one guy on the Dead Pit page has been shilling that damn reboot for weeks. Really? TJ, you say I watched Cube for the first time last night because I didn't get a chance to catch Hellraiser 2022 yet. Well, I'm not telling anybody not to watch it. I'm just saying I wasn't a fan of it. But to each his own. I always say that too. Um, and we're not all gonna like everything the same. Um, but I didn't want to just get on here and say I didn't like that Hellraiser 2022 without giving some reasons why I didn't like it. X-Ray, you say they never really got too deep on the Cenobites in the book. I swear, people forgot the original movie was a million times better than the novella. Same with Candyman. And I always thought that Clive Barker was, maybe I'm wrong, but I always thought Clive Barker was happy with the way the original Hellraiser turned out and the way the original Candyman turned out. Pandering is a word, X-Ray. Well, yeah. I'm based. Well, it might have sounded like with my accent that I said ginger fluid, but I mean gender fluid. John, you say Bray Wyatt was boring as shit. Literally a lot of flash with one finishing move. Husky Harris, Windhelm Rotunda, whatever his name is, boring reigning son of a bitch should be his name. Yeah, the rich guy wanted an audience with. I totally thought that was going to be Doug Bradley's Pinhead. So, John, you said the 22nd weekend is Scarefest. I think Radkins and me are going, and maybe Josh, aka the horror critic. Awesome. Well, if I can get Steve to go, we'll probably, go on Saturday through the day and, walk around a little bit. And like I said, I want to meet Michael Berryman for sure. Uh, excuse me. So maybe I'll catch up with you guys on Saturday. Red, you say someone said the new Pinhead is from the book. Anyway, I never watched the new one, and the original didn't impress me back in the day. It's just some skinless guy walking around in a model home. John, you say I can see what you mean. I expected worse with Hellraiser. It's better than those 90 sequels, in my opinion. Well, yeah. Yeah, some of those, you know, I will say probably after about the second or third Hellraiser movie, they were very uneven. Um, and then they just got ridiculous. So yeah, I totally get that. John, you say I just liked that it was shot well and had good gore. It didn't look like direct to Cinemax trash. LOL. Gotcha. I totally get that as well. Okay, so it, I said I wasn't going to go on very long, but we had a good discussion about some things. Um, and I will probably go ahead and keep the dates for my watch alongs because, like I said, even if I do go to Scarefest, uh, me and Steve, it'll be a day trip and we'll be back home in time for him to do his thing if he wants to do his show. And then I'll do mine following. So, John, you said we have such sights to show you. Show us a good script, pal. Well, me and Old Curly Giles almost agree. I don't think I would go so far as to say it fucking sucks. Um, but it just, like I've said about other things, it's not my cup of tea. for the reasons that I gave a little bit earlier. So, with all that being said, you guys keep chatting in there, and I watch the chat as I'm talking about the movies. So we have about 11 people in here, so I think that's a good round number to start. I've been on here for about 45 minutes already, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I cut this down from 10 to 5 because I thought that's too many movies to cover. We'll just do 5. So, this first one that I'm going to talk about, you guys probably don't consider it a horror movie, and it's probably not a horror movie per se. But this movie always has a fall-like feel to me. I don't really know why, because I think a lot of it takes place in the summertime, actually, and it's California and all of that. Um, but it just gives me those fall vibes for some reason. And that's Play Misty for me. And the reason, of course, why I said that this really isn't a horror movie per se is because this is pretty much a Bunny Bowler movie before the Bunny Bowler movie was a thing. Because um let's see, Jessica Walter plays a woman who starts out kind of sort of normal, or seems to be normal, who really enjoys this jazz DJ played by Clint Eastwood. And this was also directed by Clint Eastwood as well. And I just think Clint Eastwood, in my opinion, he's a fantastic actor. There's no doubt about that. But I think he's in top form in this movie. Um, because he plays this, like I said, jazz DJ. But he's kind of, he starts out very low key, very unassuming. Um, but you get the kind of like, he's got a girlfriend played by Donna Mills, who is like one of those long suffering girlfriends that, she's got in the back of her head that he probably plays around on her, but she loves the guy, so she stays with him. And you also get the feeling that Clint Eastwood does have wandering eyes, and that he probably has played around on her more than a few times. Um, but he's charming and he's smooth and he's sexy and all that stuff. And I guess Donna Mills' character just can't give him up. Um, so he ends up having a one night stand with Jessica Walters' character. And that's exactly what he thinks it's going to be, that it's going to be a one night stand. And then he's never going to have to see this chick again. And keep in mind, this was years and years before Fatal Attraction. But I see where Fatal Attraction picked up. I get they took things. You can call it a homage, you can call it a ripoff or whatever. But I can definitely see where Fatal Attraction took some key elements from Play Misty for me and, updated them for the year that Fatal Attraction was made. And, hey, Dirk. Dirk's watching Bloodstained Butterfly. I can't remember. Is that one classified as a Giallo, Dirk? Oh, Curly Josh, you say I could make a better Hellraiser. Doug, you say there are only two Hellraisers, in my opinion. One and two with Doug Bradley. Fuck the rest. If I was hard pressed to tell somebody which two were the best, I would say one and two. Blair says, I loved Hellraiser 3. X-Ray, you say Clint gave that woman the vapors. Evidently so. X-Ray, you say Hellraiser 3 is just X-Men with gore. So, anyway, back to Play Misty for me. And so, so he cannot get rid of this chick. She keeps showing up at his house, and um he's like, and he finally just has to tell her, hey, I've got a girlfriend. This is, there's nothing between us. And, she tries to kill herself, which is definitely, you can see they pulled that from this movie and had it in Fatal Attraction, because there's the scene where Glenn Close's character slashes her wrists. And so I see many, many parallels between this movie and Fatal Attraction. And I can't really, Fatal Attraction was done so well too and updated for the 80s. And this movie was early 70s. So I think Fatal Attraction did its job. It definitely did its job. And I don't think that it pulled so much from Play Misty for me that it can't be its own movie. I'm just saying, you cannot tell me that the people that made Fatal Attraction did not watch Play Misty for me at least once. Dirk, you say, yes, it's a Jallo. I thought it was. X-Ray, you say, Eastwood broke the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not stick your dicketh in crazy. Yeah, he stuck it in all kinds of crazy, evidently. So Evelyn, Jessica Walter's character, gets more and more deranged as the movie goes on and tries to kill him, and then tries to kill his girlfriend. But like I said, even though I believe the majority of this movie takes place in the summertime and it's California where it doesn't get really cold anyway, um, it just feels, maybe it's the subject matter or something, that dark subject matter that makes it feel fall like to me. But I always I could watch it anytime, but I definitely like to watch it in the fall. That's my favorite time to watch it. But there is not really no wrong time to watch this movie. But if you have never seen Play Misty for me, I highly, highly recommend this movie. And if you love Fatal Attraction and have not seen this, oh my gosh, I urge you to watch it. Because I went in kind of blind watching this one the first time. And I was just blown away. I was blown away by how well made it was. I was blown away by how great the acting was in it. Yeah, I can't really find anything bad to say about this movie. Maybe you guys could. Oh, good Lord. Chat 69. Okay. So instead of putting them in timeout, I just blocked them. So we'll see how that works. Um, we don't care anything about the dating site. Darky say, I hadn't watched Play Misty for me in years until a month ago. Jessica Walter sells that psycho bitch row, or is she? LOL. Right. TJ, you say, was Jessica Walters' hotness? I'm conflicted, LOL. Um, I mean, she was attractive. And this is from a straight woman's point of view, TJ. So the hot part, you might have to talk to either a man, another man, or talk to a lesbian, I guess. But I will say, from a woman's standpoint, she was attractive. Um, but it doesn't matter how attractive somebody is when they go into psycho mode. For me, that would take the attractiveness and it'd be all out the window then. Um, Johnny says she did great in this. She also plays crazy in Arrested Development, but in a comedic way. Gotcha. So this is definitely one that if you've never seen it, I highly, highly recommend it. If it's been a while since you've seen it, man, pull that sucker back off the shelf and watch it again. This is actually the Kino Lorber Blu-ray. I think yeah, it's Kino Lorber Blu-ray, and I don't think it cost me too awfully much, and it's got quite a bit of special features. I'm not going to read off all these things, but I think it'd be worth your money, especially if you're a fan of Fatal Attraction or other movies like that. Okay, so moving on to the next one on my stack is the new 4K of Poltergeist. But I'm primarily going to be talking about the movie itself. Um, the 4K looks really, really good. I will say that though. Um, and I think Dirk brought this up too on one of the other streams. But this is the one and only movie I've ever got where it actually has a yellow warning sticker that says this film contains sequences of flashing lights that may affect viewers who are susceptible to photosensitive epilepsy or other photosensitivities. So, I guess if you have epilepsy, be careful watching Poltergeist. But, this is one hell of a time when how many releases of Poltergeist have there been over the years to be telling people now that, hey, this might cause you to have a seizure if you've got epilepsy. So watch out. But I'm guessing because this, even though, again, this movie does not really take place in the fall, um, I think with it having to do with ghosts and spirits, evil entities from the other side, all of that stuff just automatically makes me think of fall, like cooler weather, kind of darker. The atmosphere obviously is dark with this. Um, and guys, I tell you, I mean, and some of you guys may think I'm a wuss or something for saying this. I'm not saying this movie scares the shit out of me or anything, but for a PG rated movie, this movie has some creepy stuff in it. And it wasn't even PG-13, it was PG. And you have the sadistic clown doll. Who in the world would give a kid a clown doll that looks like this? I don't know. I would not want it anywhere near me. I wouldn't even want something that looked like that near me now. And I'm not a kid anymore. Um, and I don't know what kid would ask for such a toy. Um, but you have the sadistic clown doll attacking the little boy. Um, you have the one scene that always kind of creeped me out when I watched it was the scene where the paranormal experts have come to the Freeling's house to monitor what's going on, and one of the guys gets hungry. And I have to say this because that's something I always wonder about. I don't know why I wondered about it in a movie. What does it matter? But I always thought, oh, he's going in the Freeling's kitchen to get something to eat, and he gets a steak out. Like, and all I could think of was, I hope that they brought their own food and he's not eating the Freeling steak. So anyway, he goes into the kitchen and he takes this steak out and he lays it on the counter. Um, and um, he's got a chicken drumstick in his mouth, and he watches, and the steak starts like crawling across the countertop, and then it kind of busts open and maggots come out of it. And then the chicken leg that he's got in his mouth also has maggots. Um, and then he runs into what looks like a little, like a half bath or something. And he goes in there and he's like splashing water on his face and all that stuff and kind of spitting and stuff because of the maggots. He and this light comes on, and it's almost like a microwave type light. And this split comes down the side of his face, and then you see him pulling his face off till there's a skull, and then he goes like this and looks up, and everything's back to normal again. So that scene always kind of creeped me out. Um, the the scene where she falls into where they're building their pool, where the mother falls in there, and the bodies are still there. Remember him screaming. He said, "You moved the headstone, but you didn't move the bodies. You didn't move the bodies, did you?" And and that was something that they were going to do again with another cemetery. And that was really what had caused all the problems. Plus, there was this evil entity. So you had not only these ghosts who were upset and didn't know really what was going on because their final resting place had been disturbed. Um, and they needed somebody to show them how, I guess, to get to heaven or go towards the light or whatever. And they kind of, they wanted Carol Ann, but they weren't wanting to harm her. This evil entity was the thing that was going to harm her. Um, Doug, you say, gets pretty cool in Cali, especially close to the ocean breeze. I lived there about a year in Oxnard. Yeah, I guess there are some places in California that would get pretty cool. But generally, we don't think about really super cool temperatures when we think about California. Dare you say she ain't bad, TJ? John, you say he needed Clyde the monkey to knock her out. He needed something. Yeah, play Misty anyway, any which way but loose. Dargy say imprint, indicator, Keno, and umbrella all have sales going. My head is spinning, my wallet shivering. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to stay away from some of it now, especially since my job is in a state of flux right now. Um, but that doesn't mean I haven't been buying a few things. Yeah, Dirk, I agree. PG was different back then. But it's just like, I guess you should be really careful about, maybe showing sensitive viewers this movie because, if you've got some really sensitive, like I guess, kids. It might not be the type of movie to show them. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to show their kids. Um, but I watched it when I was younger, but I grew up watching horror movies. Now, if you got somebody, a child that's not used to this, might want to ease them into it a little bit before, into horror movies before you show them something like this. Just my opinion, though. Oh, you meant to say at night? Yeah, that totally makes sense. So again, even though Poltergeist does not take place in the fall, it just has that fall atmosphere for me. Um, and like I said, maybe it's the dark subject matter. Maybe it's because it has to do with ghosts, and I equate ghosts and fall or ghosts and Halloween. I'm not really sure what it is, but this is always one that I like to watch. The closer it gets to Halloween, I like to watch it. Um, so yeah, I would recommend the 4K if you like this movie, you know, or maybe I should say if you love this movie, maybe you should consider getting it on 4K. Um, but I don't think, and I know I say this about Steve a lot, but I don't think he's too big a fan of Poltergeist. He never wants to watch it with me when I watch it. So, but I think Steve, and he might kill me for saying this, but I think Steve's a little weirded out about ghosts anyway. He says that he doesn't believe, but yet he doesn't really want to talk real deeply about it. Like when I showed him my pictures from Waverly Hills when he and I went for like the 2 hour tour, and I had that image of the woman who was not in our group, appeared to be dressed and had a hairstyle from the 1920s. Um, and he could not explain how she got in my picture. It freaked him out. He told me I was freaking him out. I'm like, hey, I didn't mean to freak you out, but I just, I blew up this picture on my computer, and that's when I saw that. And I'm like, I don't remember this person being in our group. So I hollered at him to ask him if he remembered her. Oh, good Lord. When you block these people, shouldn't it block them for the whole duration? But anyway, um, but I would recommend Poltergeist, especially if you like haunted house movies, if you like ghost movies, anything supernatural. Like I definitely would recommend Poltergeist, um, especially if you've never seen it. I mean, I'm not saying go out and buy the top of the line Blu-ray or 4K or whatever. Um, Try to watch it for free first. See if you like it, if you've never seen it before. But if you have seen it and it's been a while, I'd say pull this sucker back off the shelf. Give it another watch, because this is one of those movies where I find something extra to enjoy every time I watch it. Which doesn't happen with all movies. It happens with a handful of movies for me. Um, But I like Poltergeist. I don't mind that it's not rated R. It works as a PG film. I don't really see anything wrong with it. Um, and it hits the scare bases and all of that. The creep factor, families in peril, all of that stuff. So that's Poltergeist, and the 4K looks pretty decent. Dougie said, my 5-year-old loves horror. That's all he wants to watch. His favorite movie is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. He keeps trying to get me to let him watch Terrifier. Oh, Lord. Yeah. I don't blame you, Dougie. Say I'm like, not yet, little buddy. Um, well, Dirk, I think the Poltergeist 4K is decent. I mean, it's not I guess it's not the best of the best, but it is definitely not the worst, and I think it probably looks about the best I've seen Poltergeist ever look. And this may be very well the best it's ever gonna look. And I thought it was worth the money I paid for the 4K personally. But you've already purchased it, so you just haven't watched it yet. So um, I would like to hear your thoughts after you watch it. Okay. So here's another one that does not necessarily. I'm trying to think. Maybe it does take place around or on Halloween, but it's popcorn. And there's the other. That's probably the more traditional cover that people remember. This is the steel book, and it's the Synapse Films. I actually bought it from them. They were Synapse was at one of the conventions we went to a few years ago, and I asked them if they had any steel books of popcorn left, and they did. And so I ended up buying that from them. Um, I was trying to remember the film students in this movie are having a horror-thon to raise money for their department, the film department. And somebody starts to kill people off during this horror-thon. And it's evidently somebody that can change faces. They make a new face and make themselves look like the person they just killed. Um, so they can kind of go, they can slip in and out of character, so to speak, and be able to move around freely. Of course, there's a film student played by Jill Sholin. Uh, her name's Maggie in the film. And Maggie's having nightmares about some weird Charles Manson looking dude who she keeps seeing in a fire, and this she sees this little girl running, and it's just kind of very disjointed, as many nightmares are. But she's planning on writing a script based on these nightmares that she's having. At one point in time, she says, I'm not getting any sleep, but it's going to make a great script or a great movie. So then they learn about this guy called Leonard Gates, who was had a film cult. I didn't even know that that would have ever been a thing, but perhaps it's not. Perhaps it was made up just for this movie. And Leonard Gates had gotten angry because people made fun of his avant-garde film, and so he decided he would kill his family on stage, and as a, like, I guess a fuck you to everybody that didn't like his movie. And so you're kind of left wondering at some points in time if Leonard Gates didn't die in the fire that happened in this theater. Um, and maybe it's him that's killing people off. Um, but I just think this is just such a fun movie. I mean, even, you know, amidst the horror that's in it of people getting killed off, it's still just fun because who wouldn't want to have a horror-thon? Like, I can't even imagine one of us horror fans that wouldn't want to create this big horror-thon where you had all these different props and you would sell popcorn and sell t-shirts and do all this stuff. I think it would just be a blast to do something like that. I tried to do something like that on a smaller scale. Thankfully, there was nobody killing people off whenever I did this. But back when my first library job, I wanted to have a horror movie night. And I mean, I went all out for this. And I was so disappointed that, um, as with the case with live stream sometimes, I did not know that there was a home football game for the high school in town and a dance after it on the night that I scheduled this double feature horror movie thing. And I had trivia games where people could win stuff. I created my own little tickets. Um, I think I called it Nightmare Theater or something like that. And we showed Army of Darkness and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And my mom helped out with it. I had another girl who worked at the library with me that was helping out with it. I got us what looked like, shirts that people that worked at a drive-in or something like that would wear, and had our names put on it. And um, like I said, I went all out. So when I saw this movie, and even when I saw it after I did this, it's like that just brings me back. It brings me back to the feeling when you can do things like that, or when are planning something like that, or and my mom even said one time, I was watching this when I still lived at home with my mom and dad, and she said, "You'd really like to do something like that, wouldn't you, Dana?" And I said, "Yeah, heck yeah, it'd be fun." Because this was on a much larger scale than what I did for the library. Excuse me. Um, but I've always loved popcorn. I think popcorn is probably a movie that some people really, really love, and I don't think anybody really hates it. I could be wrong, but I think there's some people that say, "What? I don't get what the hype is about this movie." And I'm not really going on hype. I just like the movie. I like the concept. It has some really creepy moments in it. It is very well acted. Um, and even when I found out all the problems they had on it, they had to replace the director, uh, like very early in the shoot, because evidently the first director, could do all these short films that they had in the little inserts that were being played for the moviegoers within the film. He was not so good at the wraparound stuff, the core story. And so they had to, kind of say, we're going to have to get somebody else. So even with all the problems that this shoot evidently had, I think the movie turned out awesome. And I would highly recommend it. If you've never seen this movie, I say try to find a place where you can watch it for free, even if that means borrowing it from somebody. Um, and like I said, even though it doesn't really take place in the fall and it was filmed in Jamaica, keep that in mind. Um, it still gives me that fall vibe, having a hearth on, all of that stuff. It just screams fall to me. It screams Halloween. Um, so I'm not saying you have to go out and get the daggone steel book. Lord knows how much this steel book will probably be now, if you were to get it on eBay or something. Um, but if you could find, maybe it's on Tubi. It might be on Tubi or YouTube or whatever. I say go for it. Definitely give this one a try. And like I say about all of these, if it's been a while since you've seen it, pull the sucker back off the shelf and give it another watch. This is one that is enjoyable any time of the year, but I especially like to watch it in the fall. Okay, so let's see. Dark, you say something wicked this way comes is a great one for this time of year. Maybe it's just childhood nostalgia. No, I can definitely see that, Dirk. I mean, some of this stuff that I've been talking about in this fall fright series, there is a lot of nostalgia attached to this stuff. Oh, Curly Jaws, you say who's not a fan of Poltergeist or the remake? Are you saying you're not a fan of it? I'm not really a fan of the remake. It's just okay. But I do like the original. Okay, so the next one is one that both Steve and I always watch in the fall. Closer it gets to Halloween, we always want to pull this one out and watch it. Um, and that is Prince of Darkness. Whew. This one definitely has a cold fall like feel. This is the 4K of this, which looks pretty damn good in my opinion. Um, this is a very dark film. I mean, I'm talking very dark subject matter. Um, whether you believe in the devil or demons, or whether you believe in God, don't believe in God, um, I still think that this movie is very, very effective. It really works. It has some really super creepy moments in it, especially when whatever this, if you want to call it a demon, you want to call it the devil, whatever you want to call it, when it starts possessing some of these um, graduate students, I guess, or college students, and the effects it has on some of them, and has, I guess not all of them are grad students or college students. I think some of them might just be scientists and stuff, and they've all gotten together to study this thing, and things go awry. Um, but like I said, whether you believe or don't believe or whatever, I still think the movie's effective. I think it's scary, creepy, whatever you want to call it, and it really works. And although I don't think it's gonna make anyone question their faith or anything like that, I think it really works as a horror film. It's just exceptional, and it has Donald Pleasance in it, guys, and it has Jameson Parker from Simon and Simon on it too. So, how can you go wrong with that? Victor Wong is in this, and John Carpenter directed it, guys. Dark, you said the remake sucks ace. So, oh, Curly Josh, you never seen Prince of Darkness? Man, oh man, I would love to hear what you think about it. If that's the one you're referring to, uh, this was one that I remember the first time I watched it, and I was just blown away by it. And there's very few movies. There's a lot of horror movies that I like, and I like really well, but there's only just a few that really blow me away, blow my socks off, blow my skirt up, whatever you want to say. And Prince of Darkness is one of those. Um, and it's another one that I cannot find a weak point to this movie. It's very well made. It's very well acted. Um, and hits all those scare marks, and it's creepy as hell. And I don't know, and it has Alice Cooper on it too, in a very bizarre, uh, I guess, a very bizarre character he plays. Even bizarre for Alice Cooper, but he does it well. Yes, in some ways, the homeless people that keep coming around and they have the bugs crawling on them and stuff, and Alice Cooper's part of that group. They're more creepy at some points than the stuff that's actually happening inside the building. Um, and a funny little story, Steve. Um, he has when he gets a text message on his phone. I'm guessing his new iPhone will have this too, because I think he transferred everything over from his old phone. But when he gets a text message, there's a scene in Prince of Darkness where this guy disappears for a little bit, and everybody else is trying to find him, and then they see him outside, and like there's bugs and stuff like crawling all around him. But they're like, there he is. I forget what the guy's name is, but um, they say there he is, and they're hollering at him and stuff. And he says, I have a message for you, and you're not going to like it. And then his head falls off, and all these bugs come out. And so that's what when Steve receives a text message on his iPhone, it says that I have a message for you, and you're not going to like it. So I always think about that scene where the guy's head falls off and the bugs come out whenever I hear that. It's just the coolest thing. And there might be other people that have that on set as their text message alert for their phones, but Steve was the first person that I ever heard that had it. Darky said Prince of Darkness is solid. I totally agree. Oh, Curly Jaws. Yep. Never seen Prince of Darkness. Okay. Go try to find a copy of this that you can watch for free, oh Curly Jaws, because I would love, 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 love to hear what you think about it. I would. Um, Even if you hate it, I still would like to know. But don't go out and buy it. Don't spend money on it. Try to find it for free. Oh, Curly Jaws, you say watch 40 minutes of the new Hellraiser and shut it off. It was that bad. I wasn't a fan of it either. Oh, Curly Jaws. Okay, so moving on to so it's on Tubi Dirt. Okay, well that would be a great place to watch it, in my opinion. So moving on to the last one is another one that both Steve and I watch as the Halloween season gets nearer and nearer. And it's a vampire film, and I know it's one that several of you guys like, and it's Salem's Lot. It's the Stephen King one. Um, and this was originally a mini series And so it was shown on television. And I'll be honest, guys, I've seen both the miniseries version and the theatrical version. And I say if you can find the miniseries version, watch that version. Because I'm not saying that the theatrical version is horrible. It's just that um, there's more meat on the bone with the miniseries. They were able to show more stuff. Um, and I know there's like two schools of thought on a lot of these things. Some people think, well, miniseries are too long. You don't need to make a novel into a miniseries unless it's like The Stand or It or something like that, where it's a huge novel. Um, Salem's Lot actually um, was just a regular, it was a regular size novel. It wasn't one of Stephen King's big, 1,000-page novels. But I just think that it just seemed to flow better, if that makes any sense, in the miniseries version as opposed to the theatrical version. And I love vampire films anyway. And I'll tell you, Barlow is one creepy ass vampire. I mean, when he raises up and he goes, "Yee," like that, it's like, I may be like seeming like I'm making fun of it. I'm not. I'm just saying, if you have not seen this movie and you want to see some creepy vampire, you can see Barlow a little bit there. Um, just incredible. And this has a lot of really great actors and actresses in it. David Soul's in this, James Mason, Bonnie Bedelia, Lance Kerwin, Lou Ayres, um, and Reggie Nalder plays Barlow. And Reggie Nalder is awesome in this, is playing that sadistic Barlow, um, who Barlow in the movie is not seen that much, but when he is shown, I think they did the character a great service, not a disservice, but a service of not showing him a lot. He was just like he'd pop up, he'd be here, and you'd sing the "Woo," like that, and then you wouldn't see him for a while, and then you would see him, and then came the big finale where basically David Soul was stalking him and trying to destroy him. Um, but the other thing about this is there are some really creepy scenes that don't have anything to do with Barlow. And one of the scenes that always gave me a cold chill was when the caretaker for the cemetery, Mike, is attacked by Barlow and becomes a vampire. Before he gets turned into a vampire, he is invited to stay at the school teacher's house. And as we all know in vampire lore, once you invite a vampire into your house, they can enter anytime they want to. So Mike, when he's just sick before he ends up dying and coming back as a vampire and becoming one of the undead or whatever you want to say about it, um, the school teacher says, "Hey, you can come stay. You're not feeling good. Come stay at my house." Yada yada yada. Okay, so then Mike dies and he comes back. So he's already been invited to the house. So he just, he enters the house, and so the school teacher hears someone upstairs. He goes upstairs, he opens the door, and there's Mike sitting in the rocking chair, kind of shrouded in darkness a little bit, and he's rocking back and forth in the rocking chair. And that in and of itself is creepy. And then he raises his head up and his eyes are glowing. And, school teacher's like, and so he's trying to kind of like hypnotize him. And he's like, look at me, teacher. And he's doing this thing with his head and stuff, and it's just great. I mean, you want to talk about creepy? That is a creepy scene. And another creepy scene, and I've heard people mention this one too, is when um, Mark, the main child character of the movie, when his friend dies, and then comes back as a vampire, he wakes up to find his friend floating outside of his window, and he's like knocking on the window. He's like, "Let me in, Mark." And he's got the sharp vampire teeth. He's like, "He commands it. The master commands it," or something like that. And so Mark knows all about vampires, and he's not having any of it. And he gets a cross from one of his models, and he holds it up, and the boy goes like that, and just kind of goes back into the fog. And so that's a great scene. I mean, there's several really terrific scenes for a made for TV miniseries. I think this is one of the top ones in history. I mean, especially if you're talking about horror related ones. Um, and so, yeah, I could go on and on about this, but I mean, I think everybody pretty much knows what type of movie Salem's Lot is. I mean, it's a vampire movie, but it is a great vampire movie. And I highly recommend it. If you've never seen this one, oh man, seek it out somewhere for free. Like I say, don't jump every time I say something's great and go spend money. If you can find it and watch it for free first, then go that route. But I think this is a really great film, a really great vampire film, a really great horror film, a great miniseries. I don't know what, and it is directed by Toby Hooper as well. So almost forgot to tell you that, didn't I? So seek this one out if you've never seen it. If it has been a long while, pull it out this season and give it a rewatch. I don't think you're going to have any complaints with it, really. If you do, be sure to let me know in one of these other live streams that, hey, Dana, that movie sucked, and then I can let you tell why you think it sucked. Okay, so I have officially reached the end of my 5 fall frights for this part 4. Um, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'm going to read these chats here. Oh, Curly Jaws, you say Revelation's 1,000 times better. Oh, Curly Jaws, you say, has Salem's Lot a creepiest looking vampire film? Um, I mean, if you're talking about is the vampire creepy, I mean, all of the vampires in that movie are very creepy, I think. Each in a little bit different way. Dougie says Salem's Lot is the best vampire film in my opinion. Bonus now you're giving Hooper some love. Well, of course, I gotta give Toby Hooper some love anytime I can. Um, Here, I may have mentioned this before, but here's how much I love Toby Hooper. My iguana is named Toby after Toby Hooper. Curly Josh, you say Lost Boys, my favorite vampire film. Lost Boys is up there for me. Um, I really, really like it, but I also like Fright Night really well. I love Salem's Lot. Dark, you say Near Dark is a high rec. Oh, Curly, it mops the floor with Lost Girls. John, you say how many things you got left coming in this year, movie wise, Nina? Hold on a second, John. I'm gonna go grab my phone because I was wanting to look at my orders for Amazon. I should have that memorized. Let's see here. Because that's where I've got most of my pre orders. So I guess that wouldn't include Smoke and Mirrors, the Tom Savini documentary, which is supposed to come Tuesday. I've got Return of the Living Dead coming. I've got Dress to Kill 4K coming, and the Return of the Living Dead's a 4K. I got the Blu-ray of Happy Birthday to Me. I've got the Blu-ray of Ghost Watch. Um, and in December, I've got the 4Ks of both Carrie and Black Christmas coming. And that's got me up to date right now. I like JC's Vampires. I would agree it's badass. I mean, From Dusk Till Dawn, that one's pretty badass too, in my opinion. Oh, Curly Georgie said, I wish we would get that Lost Girls movie, the sequel to The Lost Boys. Well, you know what? Oh, Curly Jaws, I mean, this is just my opinion only, and I might be seeming like I'm a traitor to my gender. Um, but I don't know. I really don't know if I'd want to see a Lost Girls. I mean, oh, Curly Jaws, you say you're not a fan of the original Fright Night. Oh, did you like that old remake, oh, Curly Jaws? Really? You would say it's the worst vampire film ever made? Wow. But Fright Night Remake was amazing, badass. Well, there's that generational gap again. I think, oh, Curly Jaws. Plus, I've talked about this before. I have a lot of that nostalgia factor for the original Fright Night. It's something that I remember growing up. So that might be part of my love for it. Uncle Rad's back. He says, LOL, shut up, Curly. No, we can agree to disagree. That's what I always say. But I guess because my body's starting to tire out on me. Um, I guess I'm going to, as I always say, I'm going to skedaddle on out of here for the night. Um, oh Lordy, I'm wondering me and Uncle Rag could sit through that. Oh, curly jaws. But I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight in the chat. This has been another fun one. I do want to remind everybody that um, this Saturday we'll be having a watch along for Return of the Living Dead. So if anybody's interested in coming live on the stream, Uncle Rad, that includes you, because he says I never invite him. So I'm inviting you once again. So, but that includes anybody that wants to come live on the watch along for Return of the Living Dead. It'll be this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I guess regardless of whether Steve does a 6 o'clock stream or not. The following Saturday, even if I go to Scarefest, I should be back in time to do one for anybody that's up for it. I will be doing one for Trick or Treat from 1986. So you guys can look forward to both of those things, plus anything else I throw out here this coming week. Oh. Uncle Rad, you say, Lord, I think I'd rather shit my pants and then go to church. Well, thank you, Wes. I'm enjoying my shirt. Steve thought I was crazy because I couldn't get just a large. I had to get an extra large because they were sold out of the large. But this is nice and comfy and roomy. I like it. He said he wasn't getting him one because he wanted to get a large. He didn't want to get an extra large. He's so picky. Doug, you say Fright Night remake. I don't even want to tell you everything wrong with it. It's straight retarded like a 3-neck goat. Uncle Rad is a busy man. He might be. You say trick or treat, some bitch. Okay, with all of that being said, guys, I am really gonna skedaddle on out of here for the night. Thank you guys for joining me again for another Fall Frights stream. Um, who knows what I'll be coming up with in the coming week. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. And I will see everyone on the flip side. Y'all have a good night now.